What happens when one of Hollywood's most beloved actresses walks onto a daytime talk show and completely unravels in front of millions of viewers? In just 40 seconds, Rachel McAdams went from America's sweetheart to the most talked about meltdown in talk show history, all because she couldn't handle a simple question about her latest project. Kelly Clarkson's show has always been known for its warm, welcoming atmosphere. The original American Idol winner turned talk show host has built her entire brand on being relatable, kind, and genuinely interested in her guests. She's the person you'd want to have coffee with, the friend who always asks how you're really doing. Her set is bright and cheerful, her audience always enthusiastic, and her interviews typically flow like conversations between old friends. Which is exactly why what happened with Rachel McAdams was so shocking. Rachel arrived on set that day with an energy that the producers immediately noticed felt different. There was a tension in her shoulders, a tightness around her eyes, but everyone chalked it up to the usual press tour exhaustion. After all, promoting a new film means dozens of interviews, early morning talk shows, repetitive questions about the same project over and over again. It wears on anyone, even seasoned professionals. Kelly opened the interview the way she always does, with genuine warmth and a bright smile. "Rachel, it is so wonderful to have you here. I have been such a huge fan of yours for years. Welcome to the show." Rachel offered a thin smile and a quick nod. "Thanks for having me." The audience, as always, erupted in applause. Kelly pressed on, undeterred by the slightly cool reception. "So, let's talk about your new film. I watched it last night, and I have to say, your performance is absolutely incredible. There's this one scene where your character has to make this impossible choice, and I was literally on the edge of my seat. Can you tell us what it was like filming that?" Rachel shifted in her seat, crossing and uncrossing her legs. "It was fine. You know, it's acting. That's what I do." There was an awkward pause. Kelly, ever the professional, smiled wider and tried again. "Well, I think you do it beautifully. Your co-star mentioned in an interview that you really brought so much depth to this character. Did you do a lot of preparation for the role?" "I prepare for all my roles," Rachel said flatly. "That's literally my job." Kelly laughed, trying to lighten the mood. "Of course, I just meant, this character seems so complex and layered. Did you draw from any personal experiences or—" "Kelly," Rachel interrupted, her voice sharp, "do you actually prepare for these interviews, or do you just ask the same generic questions to everyone who sits in this chair?" The audience went silent. You could feel the collective intake of breath, the sudden shift in energy. Kelly's smile faltered for just a moment before she recovered, her voice still kind, but with a slight edge of surprise. "Oh, well, I actually do a lot of research on all my guests. I genuinely loved your film, and I'm curious about your process as an actress." Rachel leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. My process is that I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I'm tired of people like you acting like you understand anything about what it takes to do what I do." Kelly blinked, clearly taken aback. The camera operators exchanged glances. The producers in the booth were frozen, unsure whether to cut to commercial or let this play out. Kelly took a breath and responded with grace. "Rachel, I'm not pretending to understand what it's like to be in your position. I'm asking because I think our audience would love to hear about your experience. That's what we do here. We have conversations." "Conversations?" Rachel laughed, but there was no humor in it. "This isn't a conversation. This is you asking me surface-level questions so you can fill an hour of television and sell some ads. Let's not pretend this is anything more than that." Kelly's expression shifted. The warmth was still there, but now there was something else too. A quiet strength. "Rachel, I understand if you're having a tough day, but I think you might be projecting something onto this situation that isn't really there. I ask my questions because I care about the answers and because our audience cares. If you prefer, we can talk about something else entirely. We can talk about your favorite music, your hobbies, literally anything you want." "Oh, how generous of you," Rachel said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Kelly Clarkson, everybody. So understanding, so accommodating. Do you practice that in the mirror? That whole relatable girl next door thing? The audience gasped. Some people shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Kelly sat up straighter, her jaw tightening slightly. "That's not a thing I practice, Rachel. That's who I am, and I've been nothing but respectful to you from the moment you walked onto this stage." Respectful? Rachel's voice was getting louder now. "You want to talk about respect? How about respecting that I'm a serious actress who has built a career on challenging roles and meaningful work, and maybe I don't want to sit here and play your little game of softball questions and fake enthusiasm?" Kelly's voice remained steady, calm. "Nobody's asking you to play a game. I asked you about your film because I genuinely enjoyed it, and I thought you were wonderful in it. I'm sorry if that came across as insincere, but I promise you it wasn't." Rachel stood up abruptly, the microphone nearly falling from her lap. A production assistant rushed forward to catch it. "You know what, Kelly? I don't need this. I don't need to sit here and be patronized by someone who got famous from a singing competition and thinks that qualifies her to interview real artists." The entire studio went dead silent. Kelly stood up too, and when she spoke, her voice was quiet but firm. "Rachel, I think you need to take a step back and hear what you're actually saying right now. I won American Idol over 20 years ago. Yes, and I've spent every year since then working incredibly hard to build a career, to earn respect, to be good at what I do, just like you have. I have never once claimed to be better than anyone else or more qualified than anyone else. I just try to do my job well and treat people with kindness." "Oh, please," Rachel shot back. "Don't stand there and act like you're taking the high road. You make millions of dollars asking celebrities about their pets and their favorite foods. You're not exactly doing hard-hitting journalism here." Kelly's composure was remarkable. Her voice didn't waver. "You're absolutely right. I'm not doing hard-hitting journalism. I never claimed I was. I host a talk show where we celebrate people and their work and try to have some fun and maybe brighten someone's day. If that's not something you value or respect, that's completely fine, but it doesn't give you the right to come onto my show and insult me and what I do." Rachel grabbed her purse from beside the chair. "I'm insulting you? You invited me here to promote my film, and then you ask me these ridiculous, shallow questions like I'm some kind of trained monkey here to perform for your audience." "I asked you about your performance in your film," Kelly said, her patience clearly wearing thin. "That's literally what you're here to promote. And instead of answering or politely redirecting the conversation, you've spent the last several minutes attacking me personally. Because you deserve it." Rachel's voice was rising to a shout now. "You sit up here in your perfect little studio with your perfect little audience and you pretend like you're everybody's friend, but it's all fake. It's all a performance. At least I'm honest about what I do." Kelly took a deep breath. The audience could see her making a choice, deciding how to handle this. When she spoke, her voice was firm but not unkind. "Rachel, I think it's pretty clear that you don't want to be here right now, and honestly, I don't think our audience deserves to sit through any more of this. So, I'm going to ask you, respectfully, to leave my stage." Rachel's eyes widened. For a moment, she looked genuinely shocked, as if she hadn't expected any consequences for her behavior. "Excuse me? You're kicking me off?" "I'm asking you to leave. Yes," Kelly said calmly. "You've been disrespectful to me. You've been disrespectful to this show. And you've been disrespectful to everyone who works here and everyone sitting in this audience. I tried to give you multiple opportunities to reset this conversation, but you've made it clear you have no interest in doing that." "This is unbelievable," Rachel said, her face flushing red. "Do you have any idea who I am? Do you know how many people would kill to have me on their show?" Kelly's response was measured and calm. I know exactly who you are, Rachel. You're an incredibly talented actress who I genuinely admire. But right now, you're also being cruel and unreasonable, and I'm not going to let you continue to do that on my show. You can't kick me off, Rachel insisted, but her voice had lost some of its certainty. I have a contract. My publicist arranged this. And I'm sure your publicist is going to have some interesting conversations after this, Kelly said. But right now, I need you to leave. Security will help you if you need assistance. The mention of security seemed to snap something in Rachel. She looked around the studio, at the cameras still rolling, at the audience staring at her in stunned silence, and at Kelly, standing firm and unwavering. Fine, she spat. I didn't want to be on this pathetic show anyway. Have fun asking your next guest about their favorite color or whatever mind-numbingly boring question you have prepared. She turned on her heel and stormed toward the exit. Kelly watched her go, then turned back to the audience. There was a moment of heavy silence before Kelly spoke. Well, she said, and there was the tiniest tremor in her voice now that the confrontation was over. That was certainly not how I expected this interview to go. The audience erupted. Some people applauded. Others called out support for Kelly. Someone shouted, "We love you, Kelly," and others joined in. Kelly held up her hand, asking for quiet. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. I really do. But I also want to say something important here. I don't take any pleasure in what just happened. I don't feel good about having to ask someone to leave. But I also think it's important to stand up for yourself and for your team when someone is being disrespectful. The audience applauded again, louder this time. Kelly smiled, but it was a sad smile. You know, I've been doing this show for a while now, and I've interviewed hundreds of people. And the truth is, almost everyone who sits in that chair is kind and professional and wonderful to talk to. But every once in a while, you run into someone who is maybe going through something or having a bad day, or just decides to take their frustrations out on you and your team. And when that happens, you have a choice. You can let it slide, or you can set a boundary. She paused, collecting herself. I chose to set a boundary today because I think it's important that we all treat each other with respect. I don't care how famous you are, or how talented you are, or how many awards you've won. None of that gives you the right to be cruel to people who are just trying to do their jobs. And I won't apologize for standing up for myself and for everyone who works on this show. The audience gave her a standing ovation. Kelly wiped at her eyes quickly, clearly emotional. Okay, she said, laughing a little. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to shift gears completely, because I think we all need something fun and light after that. We've got an amazing musical performance coming up, and I cannot wait to share it with you. As the show cut to commercial, the cameras caught Kelly's shoulders dropping, the weight of what had just happened settling on her. Her team rushed to her side, offering support and reassurance. Kelly hugged her producer and whispered something that made them both laugh, a release of tension. Backstage, Rachel was being escorted out by security. Her publicist was on the phone, her voice tense and urgent. Other staff members watched silently as Rachel McAdams, one of Hollywood's most respected actresses, was walked out of the studio in disgrace. Her face was still red, her hands shaking slightly as she clutched her purse. Back on stage, Kelly took a sip of water and straightened her shoulders. She looked out at her audience, at the people who had supported her through that incredibly difficult moment, and she smiled. A real smile this time, not the professional one she'd been wearing during the confrontation. Thank you, she mouthed to them. When the show came back from commercial, Kelly had completely reset. She was bright and energetic again, introducing the musical guest with genuine enthusiasm. She danced along to the performance, clapping and smiling, giving no indication of the turmoil that had just unfolded. That's professionalism. That's grace under pressure. The musical performance was incredible, exactly the palate cleanser the show needed. The audience sang along. The energy in the room shifted from shocked and uncomfortable to joyful and celebratory. Kelly joined the performer on stage for the final chorus, her voice soaring, reminding everyone why she became famous in the first place. Not because of a competition, but because of her undeniable talent. As the show wrapped up, Kelly gave her closing remarks. "Thank you so much for being here today, everyone. I know that was a bit of a wild ride, but I hope you also got to enjoy some really beautiful music, and maybe we all learned something about the importance of treating each other with kindness and respect. That's what we try to do here every single day. Come back tomorrow, and we'll have a wonderful time together. I promise. Less drama, more fun." The audience laughed and applauded. As the credits rolled, Kelly waved goodbye, blowing kisses to her fans. The second the cameras stopped rolling, she sat down heavily in her chair and let out a long breath. Her team surrounded her, everyone talking at once, making sure she was okay, praising how she handled the situation. "I can't believe that just happened," Kelly said, shaking her head. "I've interviewed some difficult people before, but that was something else entirely." Her producer squeezed her shoulder. "You were perfect. You gave her so many chances to course correct, and she just kept pushing. You did the right thing." Kelly nodded, but she still looked troubled. "I know. I just hate that it came to that. I really do admire her work. I meant that. I just wish she had been willing to have an actual conversation instead of whatever that was." "That wasn't about you," another producer chimed in. "That was about whatever she's dealing with in her own life. You can't take that personally." "I'm trying not to," Kelly said. "But it's hard when someone attacks you like that in front of millions of people." The team continued to rally around their host, offering support and perspective. This was clearly a group that cared deeply about each other, that had each other's backs. That kind of loyalty and camaraderie doesn't happen by accident. It happens when a leader treats their team with respect and kindness, exactly the way Kelly had been trying to treat Rachel. In the control room, the producers were already reviewing footage, deciding what to do about the incident. Would they air it as is? Would they edit it down? These were complicated questions with no easy answers. On one hand, it was explosive television that people would definitely talk about. On the other hand, it was deeply uncomfortable and potentially damaging to both Kelly and Rachel. The decision was made to air it in full. Not because they wanted to embarrass Rachel, but because cutting it would raise more questions than it answered. People had been in the audience. They would talk. It would leak anyway. So better to control the narrative and let people see exactly what happened, including how gracefully Kelly handled an impossible situation. The footage showed everything. Rachel's increasingly hostile responses to simple questions. Kelly's patient attempts to redirect and salvage the interview. The shocking personal attacks. The calm, firm way Kelly asked her to leave. And perhaps, most importantly, Kelly's speech afterward about respect and boundaries and treating people with kindness. What the cameras captured was a masterclass in professionalism under pressure. Kelly never raised her voice. She never stooped to Rachel's level. She never insulted Rachel's talent or career. She simply stood her ground and refused to be treated poorly on her own show. That's strength. That's dignity. The episode became one of the most talked about moments in talk show history. Not because of the spectacle, though there was certainly that, but because of what it revealed about character, about grace, about the difference between being kind and being a pushover. Kelly showed that you can be warm and welcoming and still have boundaries. You can be understanding and patient and still stand up for yourself when someone crosses a line. Rachel McAdams walked onto that stage expecting to do a quick interview, promote her film, and move on to the next stop on her press tour. Instead, she became part of a viral moment that revealed something ugly about how she was feeling that day and how she chose to express those feelings. She attacked someone who had done nothing wrong, someone who had actually been complimentary and supportive. And when given multiple opportunities to reset and start fresh, she doubled down instead. Kelly Clarkson walked onto that stage, planning to have a fun, engaging conversation with an actress she admired. Instead, she found herself in a position where she had to make a difficult choice in real time, on live television, with millions of people watching. She chose to protect herself and her team. She chose dignity over keeping the peace. She chose to show her audience that it's okay to set boundaries, even when it's uncomfortable. The entire incident lasted less than 15 minutes from start to finish. 15 minutes that felt like an eternity to everyone in that studio. 15 minutes that changed how people viewed both women. 15 minutes that reminded everyone watching that fame and talent don't excuse bad behavior. That being beloved by millions doesn't mean you get to treat individuals poorly. That sometimes the kindest people are the ones with the strongest boundaries,